Marriage is not just the union of two individuals, it is a fusion of energies, destinies, and karmic blueprints. The partner you choose, or seemingly end up with, is never random. It is never purely a coincidence of timing, attraction, or compatibility. Instead, it is the echo of countless unseen actions, decisions, and thoughts, both yours and theirs. The karma of marriage reveals that who you marry is a direct reflection of who you are, not just today, but the totality of who you've been. Think of your life as a garden. Every action is a seed, every word a watering can, and every intention a ray of sunlight or a shadow. The person who comes to share your garden does not arrive accidentally. They are drawn to the vibration you are emitting, the scent of the flowers you've nurtured, and sometimes the weeds you've ignored. That is karma. Marriage, then, is not just about love. It's a mirror of your internal landscape. The one you marry is not the one who completes you. They are the one who reflects your incomplete parts back to you so you may grow. This is the most gripping truth and often the most painful. The conflict, joy, passion, misunderstanding, all these are not created by the partner, but triggered by the energies both of you carry. This is not fatalism, this is empowerment. If you married someone angry, insecure, controlling, absent, or chaotic, the point isn't blame, it's awareness. What inside you was karmically aligned with them at that time? What were you meant to learn? What cycle were you unknowingly continuing? These are not accusations, these are invitations to evolve. The karma of marriage doesn't only speak to the choice of a partner. It speaks to what patterns of thought you repeated, what desires you clung to, what illusions you nurtured, and what unhealed wounds you accepted as normal. When you understand this, you stop trying to fix your partner and start understanding yourself. And in that moment, the marriage changes, or you leave it with clarity. Either way, karma has done its work. Marriage is often romanticized as the final destination, the peak of love, the end point of longing. But in reality, it is the beginning of a far deeper journey, one that is spiritual, karmic, and evolutionary. It is the ultimate classroom where the curriculum is your own soul, and your partner is your mirror, your test, your challenge, and sometimes your trigger. Why you marry who you marry cannot be answered solely by psychological profiling or social compatibility tests. The deeper layer is karma. Karma does not mean punishment or reward. Karma means resonance. You resonate with people who vibrate at the same frequency as the unhealed or unconscious parts of you. Sometimes this resonance feels beautiful, supportive, peaceful, expansive. Other times it is raw, difficult, and even painful, but it is always accurate. When two people come together in a marriage, they bring not just their love, but their wounds, their parents' voices, their fears, their unmet childhood needs, their belief systems, their emotional survival strategies, and most importantly, their karmic patterns. If both individuals are unaware of this, the marriage becomes a battlefield of projections. But when one or both begins to awaken, the marriage becomes a space of deep transformation. It is not uncommon for people to look back and wonder, why did I marry them? But the answer lies not in regret, but in understanding. You married them because at that point in your journey, they were the perfect person to activate your next stage of growth. Maybe you needed to learn boundaries. Maybe you needed to feel heartbreak to learn self-worth. Maybe you needed to see how you abandon yourself so you could stop doing it. None of these are mistakes, they are movements in a karmic symphony that your soul agreed to. And this is the hidden blessing. When you understand the karma of marriage, you become less bitter and more awake. You forgive faster. You learn deeper. You no longer fear love, you approach it with reverence. You do not rush into marriage, nor do you stay in one that poisons your growth. You become discerning, not out of fear, but wisdom. So whether you are married, divorced, about to marry, or never plan to, remember this. Each intimate bond is not just a romantic story. It is a karmic revelation. The one you attract is the one you need until you've learned what the relationship came to teach. After that, either the relationship evolves with you, or it ends, releasing both of you to your next phase. The karma of marriage is not written in punishment or reward, but in truth. And the truth is always this: love is not here to make you comfortable. It's here to wake you up. Every person we attract into our lives carries a message, a vibration, an echo of something that lives inside of us. And nowhere is this reflection more intense and undeniable than in the person we marry. It might appear on the surface that the relationship was formed out of love, attraction, timing, or shared interests. And while all of that may be true to a degree, beneath those surface-level alignments lies a much deeper cause. The marriage is a mirror, a reflection of your unconscious patterns, your unresolved wounds, your beliefs about love, self, worth, and connection. It is not merely about who you love, but who you are, or more precisely, who you have not yet realized yourself to be. The individual we are drawn to romantically, and especially the one we choose to marry, is often the one who reflects back the parts of ourselves we do not see or do not want to see. You may find yourself deeply attracted to someone's confidence, not realizing it mirrors your own hidden insecurity. You may feel comfort in someone's silence, unaware that you are repeating the emotional absence of a parent. You may be drawn to someone who constantly needs your help, unaware that you have built your identity around saving others to avoid saving yourself. Marriage in this way is not just a union of love, it is a dance of shadows. What makes marriage so uniquely intense is that it's a daily exposure to this mirror. You live with this person, you sleep beside them, you make decisions with them, you share silence with them, you see their flaws, and they see yours. But more than that, they trigger things in you that no one else does. The smallest things can irritate you, a tone of voice, a lack of a response, an unfinished task, their habits, their moods. These seemingly minor irritations often have deep roots, and when you begin to pull on the thread, you realize something profound. You are not reacting to your partner, you are reacting to something in yourself. This is not an easy realization. It is much easier to say, he's just selfish, or she's always nagging me. It's easier to place blame externally than to pause and ask, why does this bother me so much? Why does this feel so familiar? What am I really reacting to here? That's the beginning of karmic insight. Your partner is not making you angry. Your partner is revealing your anger. Your partner is not making you insecure. Your partner is exposing your insecurity. This does not absolve them of their actions, but it does invite you into a deeper level of personal responsibility, and with that, growth. People often say they married their opposite, but in the realm of karma, opposites are not contradictory, they are complementary. You marry someone who embodies what you need to learn, or what you need to heal. If you struggle with self-expression, you may marry someone highly verbal. If you are overly giving, you may attract someone who takes. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it's precise. The marriage is the container in which your soul can evolve, but only if you recognize the reflection. The trap comes when we resist the mirror, when we reject what we see and decide it's the other person's fault, when we try to change them, mold them, fix them all without ever looking within. This is when the marriage becomes conflict, heavy, stagnant, or toxic. Not because the karma is bad, but because the lesson is being resisted, and what you resist persists. Over time, you will either evolve through the lesson or repeat it in another form. This is why people often find themselves in multiple relationships with different faces, but the same emotional dynamics. They keep meeting the same mirror because they still haven't seen themselves clearly. One of the hardest truths about the karma of marriage is that your partner is not there to make you happy, they are there to make you whole. And wholeness doesn't always feel good. It often involves discomfort, grief, confrontation, and pain. But it's a sacred pain, a refining fire, because once you accept that your partner is showing you something about yourself, the entire dynamic shifts. Instead of fighting them, you begin to observe yourself. You begin to notice, I get reactive when I feel unheard, maybe I need to heal where I first felt ignored. Or I shut down when they get emotional, perhaps I fear vulnerability in myself. This is inner work, and the relationship becomes a powerful space for transformation. This kind of awareness also brings a deep level of compassion. When you see that your partner is acting out their own karma shaped by their own childhood, traumas, beliefs, and wounds you soften. You stop taking things so personally. You realize they too are on a journey of becoming. You may still set boundaries, you may still disagree, but it's no longer from a place of blame. It's from a place of wisdom. The mirror becomes less threatening and more enlightening. There comes a moment in every marriage when the illusion wears off. The initial spark fades, the fantasy dissolves. You see each other in raw form. This is not the end, it is the real beginning. Now the mirror is clear. Now the real work begins. Can you stay when it's hard? Can you love when it's not convenient? Can you grow without forcing the other to grow with you? These are the spiritual questions that emerge when the karma of the connection reveals itself. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to walk away not in anger, but in understanding. Some karmic relationships are meant to be short, intense, catalytic. They awaken something in you, burn something off, teach a necessary lesson, and then dissolve. That, too, is sacred. Staying is not always noble. Leaving is not always failure. The question is not, did the marriage last, but did I wake up through it? If the answer is yes, then the karma was fulfilled. At the end of the day, marriage is not about happiness, though happiness may come. It is about awakening. The person you marry is your greatest spiritual teacher, whether they know it or not. And your reaction to them, your resistance, your love, your fear, your clinging, your withdrawal, all of that is not about them. It's about you. Your soul brought them into your life to show you what still needs your attention. Your soul crafted this bond as a mirror to help you see. And when you finally look into that mirror, not to judge or fix, but to understand everything changes, that's when healing begins. That's when real love begins. Because you are no longer loving to feel good, you are loving to grow. And in that growth, in that inner alignment, the marriage becomes a reflection not of your pain, but of your awakening. Some people come into your life with such force, such emotional gravity, that it feels like you've known them forever. There's a strange familiarity in their presence, a sense that your souls recognize each other even before your minds do. This isn't just romantic idealism or emotional projection. It is the weight of something deeper, a karmic contract. These invisible, spiritual agreements are not made during courtship or after the vows are exchanged. They are etched long before this life even begins. And when you marry someone with whom you have a karmic contract, your union becomes a stage on which unfinished lessons from the past are replayed not to punish, but to resolve. When people hear the word karma, they often reduce it to cause and effect. You do something bad returns. You do something good, good follows. But karma in its truest sense is about continuity of energy. It is the echo of unresolved patterns, decisions, emotions, and intentions that carry forward until they are fully understood and transcended. This continuity is especially strong in relationships. If you had conflict, betrayal, abandonment, or attachment with someone in another life, that energy does not just vanish. It waits for a new opportunity to complete itself. Marriage often becomes that opportunity. You may wonder why you feel drawn to someone who brings more pain than peace, or why you can't seem to walk away from a dynamic that your logical mind knows is unhealthy. That pull is not always love. Sometimes it is karma in motion. A karmic contract is like a magnet. It draws you toward the person with whom your soul has unfinished business. The emotion may feel intoxicating, overwhelming, even obsessive. But the intensity is not proof of compatibility. It is proof that something deep is seeking resolution. These are not relationships of convenience, they are relationships of consequence. When you marry someone with whom you share unresolved karma, the relationship will feel both meaningful and difficult. There will be joy, but also tension, love, but also discomfort. You might feel seen and yet unseen, safe and yet threatened. It is the paradox of karmic entanglement. Your soul feels drawn toward healing, while your ego resists the discomfort of change. These relationships are rarely smooth, but they are profoundly transformative. They call forward your deepest wounds and also your highest wisdom. They show you your patterns, not just from this lifetime, but from many. They challenge the identity you've built and ask you to remember who you truly are. These contracts often involve recurring themes. For one person, it might be abandonment, always attracting partners who leave or emotionally withdraw. For another, it might be control, always choosing partners who dominate or suppress. For someone else, it could be betrayal, rejection, or codependency. These patterns are not accidental. They are the unfinished lessons your soul is still working through, and the person you marry becomes the mirror and the catalyst. They are not the cause of your suffering, they are the container in which your unresolved energy reveals itself. In these karmic marriages, the experiences you face are rarely new. They feel familiar because they are. The conflict may feel cyclical, the emotional responses may feel old, even if the circumstances are new. That's because the lesson hasn't been fully integrated yet. Until it is, the pattern continues. You might switch partners, but the emotional blueprint stays the same. The universe will keep bringing you people who trigger the same reaction, not to punish you, but to wake you up. This is why conscious awareness is so important. If you don't recognize the karmic nature of your marriage, you'll stay stuck in blame and confusion. You'll keep thinking, why does this always happen to me? Rather than asking, what is this trying to teach me? Awareness shifts everything. When you begin to see your partner not as your enemy, but as your karmic counterpart, your soul's co-conspirator in evolution, your perception changes. You move from victimhood to agency. You stop reacting blindly and start responding wisely. And that's when the karma begins to dissolve. But here's the truth. Not all karmic contracts are meant to last forever. Some marriages come with an expiration date. They are designed to wake you up, not to walk with you forever. This doesn't mean the marriage failed. On the contrary, it means the contract was fulfilled. The lesson was learned. The energy was resolved. And now, both individuals are free to move forward with more awareness, more self-understanding, and more love. However, not every karmic marriage has to end. If both partners are willing to do the inner work, to reflect instead of blame, to listen instead of react, and to grow instead of retreat, the relationship can become one of profound healing. Together, they can transmute old energy and build a new dynamic, one based not on past pain, but on present consciousness. But for this to happen, both individuals must be committed to awakening. It cannot be a one-sided effort. Karmic balance requires mutual growth. Sometimes, the pain of a karmic marriage lies not in what is said or done, but in what is repeated and unhealed, silence that feels familiar, disconnection that echoes from a distant past, arguments that feel too rehearsed. These are signs that karma is active, that the soul is trying to draw your attention to something deeper. And often, what needs attention is not the relationship itself, but the inner narrative. What do you believe about love? What did you learn about safety? When did you decide you were unworthy? These inner dialogues shape your external choices. The contract is not just with the person, it is with your own evolution. One of the most powerful things you can do in a karmic marriage is pause during conflict and ask yourself, what am I being shown? What am I repeating? What am I avoiding? This simple act of inquiry turns the relationship into a teacher. The marriage stops being a battleground and becomes a classroom. Every trigger becomes an invitation. Every wound becomes a gateway. Every difficult conversation becomes a chance to rewrite your story. This is the sacred purpose of karmic contracts, not to hurt, but to heal, and ultimately, the lesson is always love, not the sentimental, fairy tale kind, but the kind that strips away illusion, the kind that requires courage, the kind that asks you to face yourself. Karmic marriages are not easy, but they are sacred. They are the soul's way of completing what was left undone. They are the universe's way of reminding you that nothing is wasted, nothing is random, and everything is part of a much larger, more intelligent design. If you are in such a marriage or have walked away from one, know this: you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not cursed. You are evolving through the exact experiences your soul chose for its growth. The pain you feel is not a punishment, it is a message. And when you decode it, when you listen instead of resist, you step into a level of clarity that no external validation can ever give you. You understand that love was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be honest. And through honesty, you become free. Marriage is not just a spiritual mirror or a karmic agreement. It is also a deeply human decision that constructs the very architecture of your life. The person you choose to marry is not only a partner in love, they become your greatest influence, your most frequent reflection, your environment, and often your future. This choice shapes your days, your thoughts, your reactions, your sense of safety, your rhythm, your legacy, and even your idea of what's possible. It's one of the most impactful decisions a human being can make, and yet many make it without true awareness of what they are actually choosing. They fall in love with a feeling, not realizing they are committing to a pattern. They fall in love with a moment, not understanding they are marrying a mindset. They fall in love with a person, without recognizing they are also marrying that person's wounds, beliefs, habits, and ways of being. Your partner will influence how you think about conflict, how you handle fear, how you speak or silence yourself, how you move through joy or hide from grief. They become the sounding board for your ambitions or the quiet discouragement that dulls your fire. Their energy permeates your home, their habits blend with yours. Their emotional patterns start to weave into the fabric of your nervous system. It is not just about living together, it is about psychologically and energetically merging with another reality. That is the unseen truth of long-term relationships. Whether you consciously mean to or not, you become part of what they are, and they become part of what you are. People often think love is enough. That chemistry, attraction, or shared interests will carry a marriage through. But chemistry is just the ignition. It sparks, it burns, it flashes, but it does not sustain. What sustains a life together is shared values, emotional maturity, mutual respect, and compatible visions. Can you be angry with this person and still feel safe? Can you disagree and still feel respected? Can you break down and still be held with compassion? Can you speak truth without fear of punishment or ridicule? These are the foundations of a life. Love is the door, but compatibility is the house. And if you choose based on the door alone, you may find yourself locked inside a space that suffocates you. The truth is, you don't just marry a person, you marry their lifestyle. You marry their relationship with money, with health, with stress, with responsibility, with communication. You marry their family dynamics, whether you want to or not. You marry their pain if they haven't healed it. You marry their future unless you choose to consciously build a different one together. Every argument that happens after marriage is not new, it is the unfolding of what was already there but ignored. Every disappointment is not sudden, it is the inevitable result of choosing someone based on temporary emotion instead of long-term alignment. Many people marry hoping that love will change the difficult parts. That time will fix what's uncomfortable, that once real life begins, the issues will fade away. But what really happens is that everything intensifies, marriage magnifies, the quiet red flags become loud sirens. The unsaid things scream, the suppressed parts of yourself will demand attention. If you haven't chosen carefully, you'll feel trapped. Not because the other person is evil, but because you ignored your own intuition in favor of fantasy. One of the most painful truths people confront in marriage is that they are now building a life they never truly wanted with someone who reflects the parts of themselves they didn't heal. And in that realization, a deep sadness emerges. Not only about the other person, but about the parts of themselves that settled, avoided, or chose unconsciously. But this sadness is not the end, it is a beginning. It is the moment when clarity begins to rise. When you start to ask the real questions, what am I doing here? What did I want this marriage to give me? What was I afraid to see? And what can I do now with this awareness? If you are not yet married, this is your call to slow down, to look beneath the surface, to observe your partner not just in moments of ease, but in struggle. How do they handle fear? How do they respond to disagreement? Do they grow or do they project? Do they take responsibility or do they deflect? Do they encourage you to rise or subtly keep you small? These are not just emotional details, these are indicators of your future quality of life. Because when you're married, everything compounds. Their anxiety becomes your daily storm, their joy becomes your fuel, their silence becomes your prison, or their compassion becomes your safety. Their growth becomes your shared elevation. The choice is yours, but you must choose with your eyes open. If you are already married, this is not a condemnation. This is an invitation to re-examine the life you are building together, to ask whether it reflects who you both are now or who you used to be. People change, karma evolves, and sometimes marriages need to evolve with them. Can you both step back from autopilot and ask, is this the life we want? Are we still growing together? Are we still honest with ourselves? These are courageous questions and they can lead to renewal. But only if you both are willing to see what you may have been avoiding. If the answer is no, if the marriage has become a repetition of pain, suppression, or silent despair, then the bravest thing you can do is choose differently. Not out of hate, not out of blame, but out of deep love for truth. You have one life in this form, one opportunity to build a reality that reflects your essence. If your marriage no longer does that, you do not have to stay imprisoned in the karma. Completion is not failure, it is liberation. It is the soul's way of saying, you have learned what you needed, now it is time to grow in a new direction. But if the answer is yes, if your marriage holds the space for evolution, love, safety, and truth, then honor it. Water it, build with it, let it be the garden where your soul can bloom. Because a conscious marriage is not just a partnership, it is a sacred container for growth, laughter, mistakes, passion, forgiveness, and expansion. It is not about perfection, it is about presence, choosing again and again, not because you have to, but because you want to. Because this person reminds you of who you truly are when you're at your best. The person you marry becomes the filter through which your days pass. Your reality is shaped through their presence. So choose someone who brings peace to your nervous system. Choose someone who speaks truth, even when it's hard. Choose someone who listens when you're scared. Choose someone who can hold space for your shadow as well as your light. Because that's what a life is, a series of moments, shared with someone who either elevates you or depletes you. You are not just marrying a body or a name. You are marrying a vibration, an energy that will blend with yours. An energy that will either harmonize with your path or keep pulling you off course. Choose wisely. And if you didn't awaken wisely, it's never too late to reclaim your truth, and it's never too soon to start building a life that reflects who you really are.